Welcome to Redefining Medicine, an intimate and personalized program that illustrates a different side of the practice of medicine. Our in-depth conversations will focus on the physicians and practitioners who are redefining medicine through their integrative, functional, and holistic approach to health and well-being. Our special guest today is nurse practitioner Cynthia Thurlow, intermittent fasting expert, nutrition educator, and author. We'll be back with our interview after this brief message from our sponsor.
Hey there, listeners. It's your host of the weekly podcast, Redefining Medicine. I have a question for you. How much time do you spend ordering functional lab tests for your patients? Ordering from multiple lab companies for hundreds of patients can quickly turn into hours of admin time. But there's a new way to order lab tests that I'm excited to share with you. Rupa Health is a tool that lets you order 20 plus specialty labs in a single portal. You can order all tests you normally do from companies like Dutch, Vibrant, Genova, and Great Plains, and so many more. Imagine you're ordering a hormone panel for a patient that includes tests from 3 different labs. You have to log into 3 different websites to place separate orders and then come back weeks later to check tracking number and download results. Rupa eliminates all of that by having all ordering, tracking, and results in a single place, and they also handle invoices, tracking shipments, automated follow-ups, personalized instructions for completing tests, and so much more. The best part about Rupa, it's free for all practitioners. Go to rupahealth.com, that's RUPA health.com, to join a live demo or sign up to see how it works. Now let's get back to today's show.
Welcome to Redefining Medicine. We are so pleased to speak with Cynthia Thurlow today. Cynthia is an intermittent fasting expert, nutrition educator, and nurse practitioner, empowering women to live vibrant and healthy lives. We're so happy to have you on the podcast today. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. So we're here at A4M's 30th Annual Spring Congress, and you're speaking about intermittent fasting and the impact it has. Can you give us a brief synopsis of what your lecture is about?
Yeah, I'm really thrilled to be here, especially on a 30th anniversary. Today I'm going to talk about the net impact and changes in our nutrition and how it has impacted our metabolic health. I will weave in information about fasting, and then we'll deep dive into the gut microbiome and the value of fasting on the gut and how it can help improve our health.
So when were you first introduced to A4M?
It was probably 3 or 4 years ago. There are several people actually in attendance here that I followed on social media, and it really got me intrigued into looking beyond the traditional allopathic model, looking at a functional integrative perspective, and became very aligned with my own continuing medical education, but also just really understanding that we need to be looking at wellness from a different lens. We can't just look at it at a lens of, reactionary, someone already has disease, now we're concerned about this. I like being proactive, and I definitely love and appreciate that this community has been, has given so much to me in terms of education and inspiration, but also, a resource that I can recommend to other colleagues and patients as well.
Well, that's awesome. We're happy to have you.
Thank you.
And being that you worked both in the ER and cardiology for nearly 20 years, what was it like for you to have your own medical scare a couple of years ago?
Yeah, so in 2019, I came back from a trip with my husband and had terrible abdominal pain. I just assumed I had food poisoning. And it turned out I actually had a ruptured appendix, which bought me a 13-day hospitalization with a slew of complications. And to be completely fair and transparent, it was really challenging because I knew too much. I knew that the potentiality existed that I could have died, and that was a lot to wrap my head around. But I stayed really focused on my family and really focused on my mission, and that helped me get through what was probably one of the most challenging times of my life. But it makes me profoundly empathetic for what patients go through, because you become very accustomed to looking for that really nice nurse that really took good care of you, or certain specialists that came in that took such great care of me. And so I really sat in a lot of gratitude, because I know not everyone has the ability to have really fantastic care in a time when they really need it.
Wow, okay. What a journey. That is very scary. And that's what inspired you to write your book, and also be on this new health and wellness journey that you've created. Can you please tell us more about that?
Yeah, so I'd actually committed to a second TED Talk before I got sick, and I missed all the milestones for that talk. And part of my journey being in the hospital was first and foremost getting back to my family, but it was also, I was really committed to doing this talk. I felt really inspired to continue to do it. So 27 days after I left the hospital, I went on to do a talk that went viral. And so that talk then inspired programs, and then programs became the basis of a book that was just published. And so it's really unbelievable how you can take adversity and create tremendous opportunity. But I really want women to understand that being north of 35 or 40 doesn't mean that your life is over. We know that women spend 40% of their lifetime in perimenopause and menopause, and we really want to make it the best that it can be. And so my hope is that I'm changing the mindset, the methodology for future generations by the work that I'm doing now.
Wow, well, you definitely are. Can you please give us a bit of detail about the book, Intermittent Fasting Transformation? It sounds like an amazing book.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it's really the book I wish I had had when I, hit middle age and didn't have it. So it deep dives into my personal story, but then it talks a lot about women's hormones in a way that makes them very accessible, and not just the major players. It's talking about more subtle hormones like oxytocin and ghrelin and leptin. And then we, spend a lot of time talking about the science of fasting and making it, again, accessible so that people can understand the terminology and feel like they understand that it's more than just a weight loss method, which is what a lot of people choose to think about. And then it really begins this 45-day program. We spent a whole week preparing to succeed and then diving into challenges and other methods that will help people become successful. And the really cool thing is that over the past 3 to 5 years, I've been able to help so many women utilize fasting as a strategy for health and wellness that writing the book was fairly easy. I was surprised to say that, but I think it was easier than I anticipated because I just had so much content with which to work with.
All right, wow. Well, everyone go check that book out. What are some healthy habits that you partake in on a daily basis and that you recommend to others?
Well, I think first and foremost, sleep is foundational to our health. You have to aim for 7 to 8 hours of high quality sleep, cold, dark room. Even on vacation, when I'm here, I've actually brought a sleep mask to make sure that it's super dark in the room. And I remind women that if they're struggling with weight loss and their sleep is terrible, they have to figure out why their sleep is so poor. So, spending time talking to your doctors, your nurse practitioners, your healthcare professionals to figure out why that might be. It might be as simple as a hormonal imbalance, like your low progesterone is driving that. I think it's also important to eat an anti-inflammatory diet. So I'm a huge advocate of eliminating some of the major inflammatory foods like gluten and dairy, which for many women end up being sources of inflammation and can be sources for weight loss resistance. And then I would say the other thing is really inspiring yourself to have a higher purpose. Don't just make it about something that is not substantial, whether it's, volunteering in your community, connecting with your loved ones, make your life more than just a label. Like I always say to friends of mine that I've always worked even though I'm a mom. And I think both moms who stay at home and moms who work outside the house, it is still super challenging, but finding some way to identify yourself, find a purpose, I think that's so important for women.
Definitely. So is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience today?
No.
Any health tips and tricks?
Yeah, I would say, the big thing, don't be afraid of fasting. I think a lot of people equate that to starvation, and I remind people that it's really just eating less often, and it's a tangible strategy that most, if not all, men and women can, utilize in their lives.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for all of your knowledge today. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. And don't forget to rate, subscribe, and follow, and leave us a 5-star review.